Just like Kingsley, Diamond has built a better goblin. Here's your look at the Diamond Select Marvel Premier Collection Hobgoblin Resin statue. Billionaire fashion designer Roderick Kingsley was obsessed with the Green Goblin, leading him to one of the supervillains' hideouts. Upgrading the Green Goblin's costume technology and strength-enhancing goblin formula, he became the Hobgoblin, and clashed with Spider-Man numerous times without ever revealing his identity. Looking to throw off suspicion, he framed various people, including Ned Leeds, whose death allowed the world to believe that the Hobgoblin was finished. But later, pretenders forced Kingsley out of hiding to reclaim his title as the one true Hobgoblin. This approximately 10-inch tall resin statue of the Hobgoblin is based on his comic book appearance and features a high level of detail and exacting paint applications. It is limited to only 3,000 pieces worldwide. While the Goblin tears Spider-Man at the seams, let's grab the tape measure and see how tall the resin statue of Hobgoblin is. On the back of the box and in the details, it actually states that it's 11 inches in height. And I can prove that. You can see right there. The proof is in the pudding. Hobgoblin is, in fact, about 11 inches. If anything, I might say he's maybe just a little less than 11 inches, but I think 11 is still close enough. Spin that around, though, you're looking at the statue being around 27.5 centimeters tall. Along with the statue, you get yourself a certificate of authenticity. To the right is an image of what the statue will look like, though to the left is all the necessary details telling us that this is an authentic Diamond Select Release Premier Collection Hobgoblin resin statue designed by Joe Allard, hand-sculpted by Jean St. Jean. Of the limited release of only 3,000 pieces worldwide, the one that we're looking at in this review is 1612. Depending on where I put these statues on display will dictate whether I'm putting them out with their certificates of authenticity. If they're away from, example, from my windowsill, then I'll usually put these on display with their cards. If they are, though, closer to my window, I had one problem actually 2 years ago where I had one of my statues on display and I was choosing to put them on with a certificate of authenticity. Wouldn't you know it, though, the windowsill and all the more sunlight coming in ended up fading like one side of the certificate, damaging it completely. Well, not damaging to the sense that the card was ruined, but it's really hard to kind of see. You can very obviously see that one side was bleached out and the other side was still intact. So I did damage, unfortunately, the card just by having it so close to a window. I would encourage you guys, if you are putting these guys on display and you want to be one that puts them out with their certificates, just be aware of where sunlight's going to be shining down because you don't want to damage these cards. Speaking, though, of damaging, here's one problem I have with the Hobgoblin statue right away. It's the fact that they chose to make this statue with this particular design in resin. If they had, for example, backed it up a bit and decided instead to use a gallery statue PVC release, I think this statue I wouldn't have the same similar problems with. You may be noticing right now, as you're looking probably closer at his shoulder section, that there seems to be a crack line that's developed right there. That crack line I don't think was obvious inside the styrofoam tray when I first took the statue out. I think since then, and having the statue out for the time that I have had it, the weight, though, of its own cape is starting to buckle the top, fracturing, causing a fracture line, I should say, at the very top of his shoulder. And that really upsets me. It's a nice looking statue otherwise, but unfortunately, though, if I carefully pick this up here, you can see right there, there is a crack line that's run straight across his shoulder, and it's on this side as well. Although this side is actually cracking, running more up this way here. I don't think it was the case when the statue, like I said, was first inside the tray, because of course the styrofoam was supporting the weight of the cape. The problem with the cape, though, is while as good as it may look in resin, it's weighted, it's heavy, and there really isn't anything that I can see, at least, that's supporting the cape upright. If I spin this around, you can see there's no supporting struts at all, no additional sculpting that they put underneath to kind of brace the weight of the cape. And even when you're looking at the shoulders, for example, the shoulders aren't even really touching the cape either. So the cape really only has its own self to kind of hold itself. And it's causing, of course, with all this being extra weight, it's causing a fracture line to develop right here. Now, I can't tell you whether that will continue to crack until eventually the cape breaks off, but it certainly is something that right away, getting out of the box, I'm very disappointed with. if they were going to go with the route that they did to design such a really interesting looking goblin statue, they really should have kept in mind where they were going to be putting like things to support the cape. Even at the very least, if they had brought the cape down so it actually rested against his arm, then at least the arm would help to hold and brace the weight of the cape. Because again, like it's just sitting on its own, you can see how much space is in between the cape and the shoulders. There's nothing really left to go other than just cracking the weight, cracking the, I should say, the top of the cape, just because again, there's so much weight here on the back. If this was PVC, mind you, I don't think we'd be having the same similar discussion. I'm going to see if I can go in and try to repair this, but I worry, though, even if I was to repair it, it probably will still continue to crack, unless I put something underneath or at least put it on the back of the cape. Unfortunately, by also making this as something that's really meant to be seen from all the sides, I guess they really didn't want to have anything on the back to support and brace the cape. But it does result now in one serious flaw to the statue, and that's the fact that the cracks are developing on the tops of the shoulders. I'm hoping it's going to stop with the cracking where it is now. I mean, if I can live with the fact that there's a crack still there, I could probably go in and probably paint, fix it up a little bit, adding a little bit of glue. But I hope that not long term, this cape's not just eventually going to snap right off when I've got this on display. Overlooking that one flaw to the statue, the actual sculpting of the statue is awesome. I really like the way they've sculpted, for example, Hobgoblin's face. Truth be told, though, I think the coloring of his face is a little bit too dark of a gray, but other than that, I think it's a really menacing look to the Hobgoblin. I still prefer Green Goblin, I think, over Hobgoblin, but there's something to be said for more the Halloween design of this goblin that really does make him a lot more interesting of a character design than just the regular Green Goblin that we usually get. I love the way they've first of all peaked the top of his hood, for example, and colored so nicely in this Halloween orange. The orange works really well because they've also gone in there and painted to some of the darker areas, for example, around the creases and the wrinkles that he has naturally developing in his suit. They've darkened it very nicely with a darker brown. There's a really lot of contrasting colors. Maybe not as much when it comes to necessarily the blue. The scaling that he has, for example, on his arms and on his legs does get a little bit of extra blue, but I would have liked if they could have added a little bit of lighter colors there also as well, just because there's so much darker blue happening here. The one thing I really like also about the statue, first of all, I beelined it right to talking about his cape, but we can't overlook the fact that this goblin is also on top of his glider. The glider does have sort of that demonic horn look that the Hobgoblin normally would have had. And again, like the actual design of the glider is kind of more of a dark gunmetal gray with some much needed additional scratchings that they've added there. It actually kind of looks, by looking at it, that they've kind of brushed on some darker gray, kind of just to make it look a little bit more like wear and tear to it. And of course, on the back of it, now, speaking of this, like this is one thing that they could have easily done with the cape. Maybe brought, for example, a little bit of smoke up, for example, and had that sort of be the thing that supports the back of the cape. But like they've done it here with the glider, you can see like a little bit of smoke is sort of supporting the wings for the glider. Not as much maybe on this side, but it's enough just to kind of hold everything, to keep everything from breaking. On the back, though, as the smoke continues to clear away from the glider, you can see like they've darkened this color, adding a little bit of extra red. Of course, this would be then the exhaust coming up from the back of the glider. This all looks really good. And on the back, of course, or on the bottom, it does have that same number of the sequence that we looked at earlier from the Certificate of Authenticity. A couple of rubberized feet also there as well. But again, like my biggest thing about this is the fact that they took the time to put this in here to, of course, support the weight of the glider wing. Why couldn't they have done something very similar here to when it comes to the actual cape, or the actual back cape of the Hobgoblin? He's got his little satchel bag there on the side that's nicely painted here in brown. And one of the notable things that I really like also about the fact of the statue is that he has Spider-Man's suit ripped in half. Pulled from a comic cover, if memory serves me correctly, where the Hobgoblin is actually tearing Spider-Man's suit in half. He has one side sort of blowing in the wind and the other side like a kite, kind of blowing off onto the side as well. It really does bring a lot of extra charm to the statue, and I really like it a lot. Spider-Man's actual suit, I don't worry as much about the actual weight of it, because even like the spindly limbs that it has for what's left of the suit, at least there's no real weight necessarily on it. There's nothing really kind of holding it down where these would start to snap. I mean, it's a pretty thin resin anyway, so you'd still be cautionary when it comes to actually having this guy on display that you don't bang these at all, because of course there's always the risk that these could potentially break. But my biggest thing, the one thing that really upsets me the most, is the way they approach the cape. I mean, again, like I know I spent a lot of time already talking about this, but again, like looking at it, there's nothing at all holding the cape in place. If they had just only brought the cape down a little bit further, or at the very least brought the shoulders up a little bit just to kind of brace the weight of this. Because I worry, again, like the longer I have the statue on display, I only really started to notice this when the record started to hit. I really should have actually looked at the statue and see if like that line has developed a worser crack, because I would hate to think again, like I could go in there, I can take a little bit of glue, I can fix up what crack there is, maybe take a little bit of paint. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to match the paint colors completely, but I could probably go in there and just kind of touch that up a little bit to try to fix the crack. I mean, that's a short-term fix, but I think the long-term problem is that something that's still going to develop. I think, again, nice looking design on Hobgoblin, maybe not something that probably would have been best executed as a resin release. Maybe they should have stuck instead with doing it as a gallery statue instead. Now, wouldn't you know it, now that I've noticed the crack here on the statue, I keep looking at it thinking it's gotten worse. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe it's just me. Now that, of course, I notice it, it's like buying a new car. You buy a new car and then all of a sudden you notice the exact same car on the streets all the time. Maybe now that the crack is there, that's the extent of how bad the crack's going to get, and maybe it's just going to be good for the rest of the time. The time will only be the true test as to how long this cape will stay in place. Yeah, I can go in there. Sure enough, I can add a little bit of glue and try to fix the crack that's right there now, but will that continue to worsen? Again, time will only tell. This is a statue I think that lends best to probably producing it in PVC plastic. I mean, I love resin statues. There's certainly a quality and a weight feel to them that I really like the resin pieces, maybe over the gallery statues. I know gallery is always the more cost-effective way of getting into statue collecting. Resin is really where it's at for me, but maybe Goblin was better suited to be released as a gallery statue instead. I mean, giving him resin and giving him a resin cape with no supporting structure in place to kind of hold the cape, maybe that was a bad idea on Diamond's part. By the way, the design of this actual statue is based, I believe, on Amazing Spider-Man 238. The front cover has Hobgoblin sort of ripping Spider-Man's suit right down the middle. And the end result, of course, is that Hobgoblin's gliding around on his glider with the two strands of what's remaining, at least, of Spidey's suit in either one of his hands. What do you guys think of this statue? Let me know down below in the comments section. Also, hey, if you guys have picked up this statue, I should be also asking you guys as well. Have you had any problems with the cape? Let me know down below in the comments. You already know the problems that I have had, but maybe again, like it's only going to be on that one side. Maybe that's to the extent of it, or maybe it gets worse. If you again have this statue, let me know down below in the comment section. Have you had any problems with the cape cracking? And has the cape even worsened a crack to the point where the cape fell off completely? I'm hoping it's not going to be the latter. In the meantime, though, guys, if you enjoyed this video, I want to hit it with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and you certainly do want to stick around for more Diamond Select statue reviews, I can tell you we got some more coming in the pipeline. In the meantime, though, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe. Make sure, of course, you turn on the bell notification, and make sure, of course, you're keeping your peepers peeled to this channel, because there's always going to be new content coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.